The boardroom felt colder than usual, but maybe that was just me. I adjusted my tie as I walked in, calm on the outside, a storm just barely beneath. Gerard was already seated, flipping through papers like any of them mattered. Joanna sat next to him, posture perfect, face tight, lips pursed like she'd just sucked on a lemon. No handshake, no pleasantries, just business. I placed a folder on the table and slid it across. "I assume this is your updated proposal?" Gerard asked, not looking up. "It's not a proposal," I said, sitting down. "It's a transfer of control." Joanna scoffed. "You can't be serious." "I'm not just serious," I said. "I'm done playing nice. You want to work with us? This is how it happens. Not under Archwell's terms, under mine." Gerard flipped through the first few pages. His face didn't move, but I saw the hesitation in his fingers. I saw the way his eyes flicked to Joanna, then back to me. "This reads more like an ultimatum," he said. I nodded. "Good. Then you're reading it right." Joanna leaned in, voice syrupy sweet but hard underneath. "You've been running a boutique firm for, what, a year? And now you think you can dictate terms to an industry leader?" I looked her dead in the eye. I know." She sat back, unimpressed. I pulled out the final sheet. The one with the client conversion metrics. "These are your clients," I said, tapping the list. "And these are the same clients who now route half their spend through us. Not because we're cheaper, because we're better." Gerard read the numbers, slowly, silently. Joanna kept going. "Even if we agreed to this, which we won't, the board would never approve that kind of control. Talent division, strategy lead, veto power on executive hires, you're dreaming." "I already spoke to 3 board members this week," I said, calm as a lake. "They've seen the results. They're not dreaming. They're wide awake." "You went behind our backs?" she snapped. "No," I said. "I walked past you. There's a difference." Gerard set down the packet. His tone was softer now. "And if we reject this?" I stood up, pushing my chair in slow and deliberate. "Then resolute walks, and we take Elias with us. And about 10 other accounts you won't see coming until the contracts are signed." Joanna's voice cut through the tension. "You're bluffing." I pulled out my phone, tapped a name, and placed it on the table. "Speaker on." Elias's voice rang out seconds later. "You ready?" he asked. "Yep," I said. "Just confirming your intent before we finalize." "Intent confirmed. Archwell loses me the second you walk out that door." Joanna looked like she'd swallowed glass. Gerard leaned back and rubbed his eyes. I ended the call. "Tick-tock," I said. They didn't say yes. Not right then. But they didn't throw me out either, and that was enough. I walked out of that room and left them to stew. My terms were on the table. I had the leverage, I had the team, I had the momentum, and I wasn't finished. Because Joanna was staying on as support, and she didn't know it yet. But her system was about to fail a live audit, and I was the one holding the pen. The second Elias left the room, Joanna's whole demeanor shifted. The woman who had called my resume creative just 30 minutes earlier was now leaning forward, elbows on the table, smile like I'd suddenly grown a halo. "That was unexpected," she said, voice all honey now. "He clearly thinks very highly of you." I gave her a tight smile. "He tends to be direct." "Tell me more," she said quickly. "About what you did for Elias, that product line, the overseas expansion. How did that happen?" I shrugged, playing it cooler than I felt. It was high risk. We had less than a quarter to turn things around. Everyone wanted to fold the campaign. I told them to double it. She blinked. "Double?" "Yup." I'd seen the early signals. The data looked bad, but the uptake curve in rural zones was lagging, which meant the curve was coming, just slower. I pushed to localize distribution and shift ad budget to micro-influencers. That region jumped 37% in 3 months. Elias saw it. The board didn't, not at first. Joanna nodded slowly. "And that was all you?" "Mostly," I said. "I had a team. But the call, the risk, that was mine." She sat back, chewing on her pen cap, pretending to process. Like any of this was new information to her. I didn't say it out loud, but we both knew. She'd already Googled every project I'd touched in the past 10 years. She just hadn't believed I was the one behind them until Elias walked in and handed her the truth with a bow. "Well," she said, flipping her notepad to a clean page. "This changes things. Honestly, I think we may have undervalued your background. We're currently reshaping our org chart, and there may be an opening at the senior director level. Would that be something you're open to?" There it was, the big pivot. From, "You sound like you're embellishing," to, "We've always seen your potential." I smiled politely, like I was flattered. Inside, I felt like laughing, loudly. "What would the role entail?" I asked, just to see how far she'd go. "Strategy lead across multiple portfolios," she said smoothly. "It's a highly visible role. You'd have a lot of room to make your mark, and obviously compensation would reflect that." She paused, waiting for me to jump. I didn't. Instead, I leaned back and let the silence stretch a little too long. Because here's the thing they never understand. When someone thinks they've bought you, they treat you like they own you. But I wasn't theirs to buy. Not anymore. 8 months ago, I was running strategy across continents. I had offices in 4 time zones and a direct line to the CEO at Vencor. Then Preston rolled in, fresh off his second round of VC blood money, and started shaking hands with the same college buddies he used to shotgun beers with. "New chemistry," he said. "Fresh perspectives." It was never about performance. It was about replacing real operators with frat-level loyalty. Me and 4 other seniors, gone in a single quarter. No warning, no feedback, just fat severance and a recommendation letter with 0 warmth. I took the payout and walked. I thought I'd bounce back quick. I was wrong. Apparently, experience only counts when it comes in a younger body with shinier credentials. 73 interviews later, I was sitting in that room with Joanna Melrose, a woman who couldn't hide her condescension until her star client walked in and rewrote my reputation on the spot. Now she wanted me, badly, but not because she suddenly saw my worth, because Elias had put a spotlight on it, and she didn't want to be the one who let it walk out the door. "I appreciate the offer," I said finally, standing up. "Let me think about it over the weekend." She stood too, still smiling, but with a flicker of something behind her eyes. Maybe it was surprise, maybe fear. Hard to tell. "Of course," she said. "Take your time. But I think you'll find Archwell to be a place that really values your kind of experience." I nodded once, shook her hand, and walked out. In my pocket, I had an offer that paid well, gave me a fancy title, and came with all the trimmings. But as I stepped onto the street, I knew one thing for certain. They still didn't get it. I wasn't just looking for a job. I was building something. They just hadn't seen it yet. I used to have a corner office with glass walls, 2 assistants, and a calendar that looked like a game of Tetris. Every color-coded block screaming, "important." That was Vencor Strategies before Preston rolled in with his venture capital haircut and his band of glorified frat pledges. "You've done great work," he said during the meeting that ended my career there. He didn't even look at me, just stared at his tablet like he was reading off a grocery list. "But we need new chemistry." New chemistry, that was the excuse. Not numbers, not performance. Just a gut feeling from a guy who thought good leadership was about ping-pong tables and cold brew on tap. There were 5 of us, all senior, all with track records you could frame. Preston canned us in a single week, replaced us with a mix of crypto bros and TEDx wannabes who thought strategy meant rebranding everything with a cooler font. No lawsuit, the severance was fat, too fat in hindsight, hush money with a bow on it. I took it, told myself I'd land fast. Hell, I had helped turn multi-million-dollar brands into global machines. I figured 2 weeks, 3 tops. It took 8 months, 73 interviews. Each one chipped away at me in small, stupid ways. One hiring manager said I was overqualified, with a smile that almost looked apologetic. Another asked why I didn't pivot to teaching, like I'd already been put out to pasture. They didn't see results. They saw someone past 40 without a Harvard degree or a trendy podcast. My resume wasn't missing impact. It was missing pedigree. I didn't go to the right school, didn't belong to the right club, didn't hashtag thought leadership posts from Bali. Joanna was just another version of them. Archwell's whole brand screamed prestige. I saw it the second I walked into their lobby. Too much glass, too little soul. Everyone dressed like they were on a panel. Everyone trying to outsmug the next person. Before Elias walked in, she had me pegged as a liability. a risk, a resume to skim and toss in the maybe pile. After Elias, she turned full circus, all praise, all smiles, dangling a senior director role like it was a gift from heaven. Big salary, big title. I could almost hear the hook setting in her mind. He'll say yes now. He's desperate. He'll owe us. That's what made me hesitate. Because yeah, I was desperate, but not the kind of desperate that takes a gilded cage and calls it progress. I went home that night and stared at the ceiling. It was quiet, too quiet. That's what you don't realize about being unemployed. The silence isn't peace, it's pressure. Every hour you're not working feels like proof that you've failed. But I wasn't just thinking about Joanna. I was thinking about everything I'd let slide over the years. The way Vencor slowly turned into a boys' club. The way I kept my head down, did the work, trusted merit would matter. The way I built million-dollar playbooks and still got told to make room for new energy. Around midnight, I sent a message to the only person I knew who'd still get it. Nisha Kapoor, former VP of Strategy Ops. One of the few real ones left from the old Vencor before Preston torched it. Still out, I wrote. Let's grab coffee, she replied 3 minutes later. Tomorrow. 10 a.m., bring something strong. She didn't mean coffee. That weekend, while Archwell probably passed my resume around and toasted to their big save, I sat across from Nisha at a cracked table in a tiny cafe with bad lighting and better ideas. And we didn't talk about jobs. We talked about building. But that's the next chapter. For now, I just sat with Joanna's offer in one hand and my pride in the other, knowing I had a choice to make. Nisha showed up 5 minutes early, just like always. She dropped her bag on the cafe chair, ordered a black coffee, no sugar, and pulled out her notebook like we were still back in the war room at Vencor. Except this time, there was no board, no whiteboards, no pressure from the top, just two tired strategists with too much talent and nowhere to point it. You look worse than your LinkedIn photo, she said. I snorted. That's how you greet someone who just survived 73 interviews? She leaned back, eyes sharp. 73? Jesus. Yup, Joanna Melrose made it 73, I said. She actually laughed at my resume until Elias Bowen walked into the room. Nisha raised an eyebrow. Wait, Elias Bowen from Glenrith? Yeah. Walked in, saw me, stopped cold, said I saved his product line. Whole mood flipped. She let out a low whistle. That's poetic. Joanna offered me a senior director role 10 minutes later. And, she asked, I told her I'd think about it. Nisha stared at me, then shook her head. You didn't come here to talk about a job offer. You're done with that world, aren't you? That was the thing about Nisha. She never needed me to explain much. She'd already connected the dots before I even finished the sentence. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I am. She sipped her coffee. Good, because I've been chewing on an idea. That got my attention. I've been doing some quiet consulting, she said, voice low. Nothing formal, just a few clients from the Vencor days. They're fed up, sick of glossy firms that don't understand nuance. One of them told me last week, I want advice that doesn't sound like it was spit out by an algorithm. That tracks, I said. Nisha leaned in. So I thought, what if we built the firm we always wanted to work for? No hierarchy for the sake of ego. No cookie-cutter decks. Just smart people doing real work, shoulder to shoulder with clients. I let that hang in the air for a second. It was the first thing in months that didn't sound like a compromise. And what do we call this dream firm? She smiled. I was thinking, resolute group. Simple. Clear. No fluff. It fit. We'd need a third, I said. Someone digital. Someone scrappy. I already thought of that, she said. Tyrese. From product innovation? Yup. Preston booted him 2 weeks after you. He's been freelancing since. I called him last night. He's in, if we're serious. I sat back. For the first time in months, I felt my spine straighten a little. I wasn't thinking about job titles or salary brackets or whether my email signature would have a dash or a pipe in it. I was thinking about mission, about movement. That night, I drafted the email to Joanna. Subject, offer body. Appreciate the opportunity. Not the right fit. Best of luck. Monday morning, she replied with a, we'd love to revisit the offer and discuss adjustments. I didn't answer, By Friday, we were sitting on the floor of Nisha's garage with a whiteboard from Office Depot, 3 laptops, and a 1-page mission doc. Strategy with substance. No buzzwords, no bloated fees. Just work that moved the needle. Resolute Group was born with 0 funding, no office, and 3 partners who had nothing to prove and everything to build. We weren't prestigious, we weren't pretty, but we were dangerous because we had insider knowledge, quiet fury, and nothing left to lose. 3 weeks into launching Resolute, we were still working out of Nisha's garage, running on coffee and cheap tacos. We had a whiteboard full of wild ideas and 0 clients. I spent most mornings wondering if we'd made a huge mistake, but then I got a LinkedIn message from someone I hadn't thought about in years. "Hey, it's Damon Reeves. Not sure if you remember me. I sat in on your workshop in Dallas back in 19. I've got a situation, and I think you might be the only person who'll give it to me straight." I remembered him. Young guy, probably late 20s at the time, sat in the front row, taking notes like his life depended on it. I'd given a talk on smart scaling across niche markets. He asked 2 questions nobody else did. I replied right away, and we set a call for the next day. He jumped on 5 minutes early, breathless and wired. "Look, I'm launching a product line into Southeast Asia." The big firms all told me it's a no-go, too risky, too fragmented, too hard to scale. "Sounds familiar," I said. "I don't want the safe answer," he said. "I want the right answer." Tyrese and I pulled Nisha in, and we went full throttle. We dug into every layer of the region's consumer behavior, dissected local social media patterns, tore apart logistics reports, ran cost projections backwards and forwards. We didn't sleep much those 3 weeks. There were nights we wrapped up calls at 3 a.m. with sweat in our coffee and 6 browser tabs open per person. We didn't just build a plan, we built a damn assault strategy. When pitch day came, Damon invited us to present directly to his executive team. We thought we'd be in a small conference room. Instead, it was a full-blown boardroom with a glass wall and skyline views. Halfway through our pitch, 2 of their VPs walked in, clearly unplanned. They sat down, didn't interrupt, just listened. By the time we got to the last slide, a hybrid rollout plan combining online-first campaigns with targeted influencer clusters and community-led pop-ups, I noticed one of the VPs had stopped taking notes and was just staring at us. "Where did you guys come from?" he asked. "Garage," Tyrese said. That made the room laugh. But they got the message. We weren't part of the machine. We were the wrench in it. Damon signed the deal the next day. And here's the thing about a win like that. It doesn't echo. It ripples. 2 weeks later, we heard from one of the VPs who'd sat in on the pitch. She referred us to her sister's startup in biotech, then another from an old supplier, then a regional consumer brand with a thorny expansion problem. One project turned into 3, then 5, all referrals, all word of mouth. By month 4, we had enough traction to move out of Nisha's garage. We found a small second-floor space in a converted warehouse on the east side of town. Brick walls, bad parking, good energy, no receptionist, no marble lobby, just a chalkboard that said, "Welcome to Resolute," and a fridge full of La Croix we never paid for on time. We were still small, still scrappy, but the right people were paying attention. Executives started sliding into our inboxes, journalists started requesting interviews, and then, out of nowhere, we got an email that made us all stop cold. Subject: Invitation to Speak, Global Growth Conference. It was the kind of conference where panels had billionaires and buzzwords, where most firms paid just to watch from the back row. They were offering us a speaking slot. We debated whether to go big or keep it quiet. In the end, we agreed on one thing: show up, show what we're about, then get out. But we didn't just get attention, we got a storm. We showed up to the Global Growth Conference in sneakers and business casual war paint. No booth, no branded swag, no over-designed decks. Just 3 chairs, 1 laptop, and a mission. Our slot was early afternoon, tucked between a panel on AI and emerging markets and a keynote from some futurist with a book deal. We figured we'd get a polite crowd, maybe a few bored execs who'd wandered in for the air conditioning. We didn't expect the room to fill. Nisha kicked things off with a breakdown of how standard market entry models ignore invisible segments, micro-communities with high engagement and low visibility in traditional data sets. Then Tyrese walked through how digital noise hides real traction if you don't know where to look. And I closed it out with a single slide titled, "No one's looking because no one's asking." We didn't oversell, we just showed receipts, the kind that made people shift in their chairs and start scribbling notes. Case studies, pivot data, numbers that made the usual crowd of nodding suits actually sit up. Then came the Q&A. First few questions were standard, curious, cautious. Then someone in the second row stood up. I didn't see his face at first, just the tailored blazer, the sharp jawline. Then he spoke. "This model," he said, "didn't just change our strategy, it changed our margins." I blinked. Elias Bowen. The man never warned us he'd be there. Never texted, never called. He stepped into the aisle and faced the crowd like it was his boardroom. "I'm Elias Bowen, CEO of Glenrith," he said. "Last year I nearly shut down our European wellness vertical. These folks didn't just save it, they made it our highest growth channel in the region. And I'll tell you right now, we didn't find them through a firm, we found them by accident, which is the real crime." People turned in their seats, phones came out, cameras clicked. He looked straight at me then. "So, let me ask you something. Why aren't you at Archwell? Because if I were them, I'd be begging you to lead their global strategy." The room went dead quiet. I could feel Joanna's eyes on me before I even saw her. She was standing in the back, near the wall, half in shadow, trying to look invisible, but her face gave her away. I stepped forward, took the mic, and didn't flinch. "I was offered a seat at Archwell," I said, "but I chose to build something instead, something better." Scattered applause, then more, then full. After that, the room didn't empty. It swarmed. Executives came up asking for cards. A reporter from Business Chronicle wanted an exclusive, and someone from a private equity firm offered to set up a meeting before the end of the day. We hadn't gone there to blow up, but we did. Later that night, at the hotel bar, I was nursing a whiskey when I felt a shadow move beside me. "Impressive set today," said a smooth voice. I turned. Gerard Walsh, CEO of Archwell. Tall, polished, with the smile of a man who thought everything could be fixed with charm and a generous expense account. "I think we got off on the wrong foot," he said, signaling the bartender. "We should talk." "About what?" I asked. "About fixing the mistake Joanna made," he said. "Maybe there's a way we work together after all. Partnership, maybe." I smiled, let the silence sit heavy for a moment, then clinked my glass. I think I'm past fixing things that were broken from the start. After the conference, it was like someone flipped a switch. Our inbox went from quiet to chaos overnight. 7 new clients signed within 3 months. We were in meetings nonstop, onboarding teams, scoping projects, reviewing pitches, and we were hiring. Fast. But not like other firms. We didn't give a damn where someone went to school. We didn't ask for polished resumes or fancy referrals. If you couldn't talk through a real problem like you'd lived it, you didn't make it past the first call. Our interview process was brutal, but honest. We gave candidates messy case scenarios, ones with incomplete data, fuzzy goals, conflicting priorities, and watched how they handled it. Some people froze, some stumbled. But the ones who thrived, they were magic. By the time we hit team member number 17, Nisha looked at me across the office and said, "You know what we've built, right?" "An HR department's worst nightmare?" She laughed. "A team that actually works. No peacocking, no filler." Tyrese called it a bias-free brain trust. I just called it working like we meant it. Our clients noticed. They didn't just rehire us. They told everyone. "Resolute's people actually think," one exec said during a feedback call. "They don't just nod and send a deck." Everything was rolling until that Tuesday morning. Yara burst into the office, face flushed, holding her phone like it had personally insulted her. "They copied us," she said. "What?" Nisha asked. "Archwell," she said, breath short. "They launched a whole new strategy division. Same wording, same mission, even the damn talent phrasing. Real-world judgment over pedigree," Tyrese muttered. "No way." "Oh, and the kicker?" Yara said. "Guess who they put in charge?" I didn't have to guess. Joanna Melrose. The woman who once called my resume embellished had now rebranded herself as a modern strategy pioneer. I pulled up the site. There it was. Shiny new branding, buzzwords stapled to every inch of the page, A photo of Joanna in a navy blazer looking thoughtful against a city skyline. Nisha stared at the screen. They're not just borrowing ideas, they're coming for us. And she was right. Over the next few weeks, we started hearing from clients. Archwell reached out again, one said. They offered us a low-cost retainer, said another. Are you guys okay? Because they're pitching something, really similar to yours. It wasn't panic, not yet, but it was pressure. They were undercutting us with big budgets and shallow promises. The kind of moves that look smart on spreadsheets and empty in execution. But here's what they didn't know. We'd already started building our next move. See, while they were mimicking our marketing language, we'd been refining something they couldn't fake. Our talent framework. We had data, actual outcomes from real client work, showing how our hires outperformed traditional candidates in every metric that mattered. We were testing for instinct, not Ivy, for adaptability, not articulation. And we were about to roll it out in a way Archwell couldn't touch without rewriting their entire culture. That night, I walked into Tyrese's office and said, "Let them chase us." He looked up. "What's the plan?" "We pivot," I said. "Let them play strategy. We go where they can't. We build the people." We didn't wait. The moment Yara confirmed Archwell was poaching clients with our language and undercutting our services, we went on offense, not with lawyers or PR, but with the one thing we knew they couldn't fake, our people. We'd been refining our talent framework for months in the background, not just as a hiring tool, but as a full-scale diagnostic. It tested for agility, pattern recognition, humility under pressure, not how well someone spoke in jargon or how tight their resume looked, but how they actually thought in the real world. So, we pitched it. One of our newer clients, a mid-sized consumer tech firm in Chicago, had just rejected a batch of final-round candidates from a top agency. I asked their COO if we could run our framework on the same pool. "Sure," she said. "Knock yourselves out. I'm not holding my breath." We ran the tests. Took about a week. 3 of the candidates they had already passed on lit up our system like fireworks. Not just passable, exceptional. We shared the results. Quiet at first. Then the COO sat forward and asked for our notes. A week later, she hired all 3. By month's end, one had already saved a project on the verge of collapse. The other 2 rewired how their product team scoped new features. She called us and said, "How soon can you audit our whole hiring process?" We built her a new pipeline from scratch. Yeah, metrics, language, workflow, all of it grounded in the framework. She rolled it out across the company within the quarter. Then word started spreading. Not through LinkedIn posts or industry write-ups. This was faster, quieter, and more powerful. Executives texting executives. "You have to talk to these guys. They're finding talent we didn't even know we needed. It's freaky, the kind of people they're surfacing." We weren't just a strategy firm anymore. We were something else. We'd shifted from solving external problems to solving the most internal one of all, who companies actually hire. Archwell kept sending glossy PDFs. We sent people who actually change things. Then came the kicker. A message from an outside consultant we knew used to float around Archwell's board. Soft offer, it read, "Archwell wants a conversation. Acquisition level, you interested?" I didn't answer right away. I forwarded it to Nisha and Tyrese. They both gave the same response. "Only if it's on our terms." I replied to the rep and said I'd take the meeting. But there was a condition. I want Joanna in the room. If they were serious about buying us, I wanted the woman who once told me I was unqualified to sit across the table and explain why she now wanted us on her payroll. Not for revenge, for clarity, because this time we were the ones doing the screening. The boardroom was all glass and cold light, the kind of space that screamed power to the uninvited. But I wasn't there to feel impressed. I was there to finish what they started. Joanna sat across from me, back straight, wearing a perfect gray blazer like armor. Gerard Walsh, Archwell's CEO, was next to her, sipping water like it was bourbon. They both looked calm, collected, confident this was a formality. "Thanks for coming," Gerard said, nodding to me and my attorney. "I came to listen," I said, "and to present a counteroffer." Joanna's eyes flicked up just for a second. She didn't say anything, but her lips pressed together. I pulled out a single folder and slid it across the table. This is what it would take. Gerard opened it, His eyebrows rose before he even got to the second page. Full autonomy, he said. For our entire team, I replied. Resolute Group doesn't get absorbed. It remains intact. Independent strategy operations under your umbrella, not inside your pipeline. Joanna's face tightened. That's not how this works. It is now. She looked at Gerard, but I wasn't finished. I also want direct access to the board, I said. No middle layers. If you want to evolve, you don't do it through red tape. Gerard shifted in his seat. You're asking for a lot. You're getting a lot. We're not just outperforming. We're outperforming your model, and I can prove it. I opened a folder of my own and slid it across. These are post-hire impact metrics from the last 6 clients we redesigned pipelines for. Compare them to Archwell's last 4 internal talent audits. It's not even close. Gerard read silently. Joanna didn't. Instead, she leaned in, voice sharp. This would dismantle our standards. I met her eyes. Good. They're broken. The room fell quiet. Gerard tapped the folder. This is strong, but this much change, this fast. I'm not looking for a merger, I said. I'm looking to build something that doesn't apologize for being better. He glanced at Joanna. She didn't speak, just crossed her arms. I assume you need time, I said, standing. Take 3 days. We'll either build it with you or against you. They didn't stop me on my way out. 3 days passed. No word. On the 4th morning, my phone buzzed. Private number? Gerard. We're in, he said. Most of your terms are accepted. We'll draft it today. And Joanna? I asked. There was a pause. She's being reassigned, he said. The board wants her to support the rollout. I laughed quietly. Support, huh? We'd like you to come in next week. Formal signing. I hung up and looked around the office. Our office. Resolute was humming with quiet motion. People working, music low in the background. Real people solving real problems, none of them wearing masks. We'd done it. I was now the architect of the same company that once tossed me out like an extra line item. And Joanna, she wasn't gone yet.